Hello and welcome to another advanced skeleton video. Unreal 5, the full version, is out and it is looking really good. And in this video, we're going to take a closer look at how advanced skeleton can be used to work together with Unreal in terms of character rigs that can be imported and exported. So let's jump over into Maya and start up advanced skeleton. And we'll open the export section and see that we have a variety of export options here. Now the most basic exporter here that can be used to export to Unreal is the FBX export function. And now if we click on the question mark button next to the main button, we'll get the help image. And as the help image explains here, the FBX exporter is doing a simple operation of selecting the deformation system group, which contains all the joints used for the binding, and it selects the geometry, and it calls Maya's export selection option. Next, we have some Unreal specific export functions here. Now the first one is the mannequin export. The help image here explains that the mannequin, that's the Unreal example character that is set up to be fully playable, and the mannequin export will export your character rig into a FBX file that has the skeletal structure and joint orients to match the mannequin character. That means you can drop your character straight into Unreal and instantly play with your character. And the next one is control rig export. Now that control rig is Unreal's own rigging system, and control rig export will export your advanced skeleton rig into a Python file that you can then execute in Unreal, and it will generate a control rig for your character that mimics the advanced skeleton rig. So let's test some of this out. We'll open one of the demo characters to use for this. Let's go with Tuna, and we'll go to the export section here, and let's do the mannequin export. Now the first thing that pops up here is asking which mannequin skeletal structure to use. There's a couple options here. The one called mannequin, that's the character that comes with Unreal 4. In Unreal 5, the mannequin has been upgraded and it comes in a male and female variant. Manny is the male and Quinn is the female variant. So for this demo, we're going to use Unreal 5 and we'll go with the male version. So let's choose Manny. And we'll save this FBX file as Tuna. And let's jump over to Unreal and start Unreal Engine 5. And we're going to create a new project of type game. And we'll use the template here called the third person. And we'll give the project a name. I'll call this Tuna Game. And hit create. Okay, first thing we're going to do is hit play, and we'll see what this is. This is a playable, simple level game that we can move around. So we're going to take our Tuna mannequin export and essentially replace this character with our character. So in order to do so, the first thing we're going to do is import our FBX file. For that, I'm just going to make a new folder here, and I'm going to call this Tuna and choose import, and that brings up the import option. Now an important thing here, since we're essentially going to replace the mannequin, is that in this very first section here where it says skeletal set to none, we're going to change that. We are going to use the mannequin skeleton, and we can see there are two available options here. Now this is a little bit confusing with the names because there's one called a mannequin, another one called mannequin skeleton. This is just how the current naming is in Unreal. Now if we jump back into Maya, open the help file for mannequin export, it explains it here that if you look down here in the corner, it says that the one called mannequin is for Unreal 5 and the one called mannequin skeleton is for Unreal 4. So essentially we want to make sure to use the one called mannequin here and hit import. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to navigate to find the blueprint for the main game. And we'll find that by going to the folder called the third person blueprint, and he will see a blueprint called BP_third person character. Double click on it to open it up, and then in here locate the section that says mesh, double click on it to get a preview, And over here in the details panel, we can see an option here that says which skeletal mesh to use. By default, that's using the Queen sample skeleton mesh. We're gonna swap that over to our imported character, Tuna. And there we go, we can see the character has been replaced. Now another quick thing we want to make sure is the anim class is set correctly. Now we can see that that's currently set to Queen. That's the female version, as Tuna is a male. I'm going to switch this over to Manny, which is the male version. It's slightly more masculine animation cycles for him. And that's it. We're going to close this, and then we can just hit play. So that's showing how we can use a Unreal mannequin exported rig in a new project. Now this will also work for full game projects and demo projects. And we can test this out on the Lyra starter game project. So let's go ahead and open up the Lyra game starter project. And if we take a look at the folders and files here, we'll see that under content we have characters. In characters we have cosmetics, and we can see in here that we have both the female and male Unreal5 mannequin characters called Manny and Queen. So this game is going to feature both the male and female character. So let's jump back into Maya. We'll have Tuna that can represent our male character, and let's grab a female character and do the same thing. So we'll have these two advanced skeleton character rigs playing in the game. So we'll go ahead and choose Clary and hit open, and we'll run the mannequin export. This one is going to be Quinn Unreal5, and we'll save this FBX file as Clary. And we'll jump back over in Unreal, and I'll just drag and drop to import, and make sure to choose the skeleton called a mannequin. Import all, and the same for Tuna. And then I'll jump back into the folder that was called cosmetics, and for Manny blueprint, I'll open that up. I'm gonna swap that over from the Manny skeleton mesh to Tuna. And for Quinn, we'll swap that one over to Clary. And let's play the game. Alright, so that's how we put the characters in a game. Now let's move on to the next option here, control rig export. And for this, let's start again fresh and choose another character this time. Let's go with Conan. Open the advanced skeleton rig. So first we gotta do a standard FB export of the character, and we'll call this one Conan. And next we'll hit the button called control rig export. Now you might get a message like this that says the face setup for the character is detected, but it is not a blend shape type face setup. So we have two options here. We can click OK, and it will export the body section of this rig only, not the face. Or let's just hit cancel because we want to include the face, and as the message said, we can just convert this to a blend shape face setup, which is done in the face section. Under the blend shape subsection here, we'll just hit convert. And then we'll close the face section and again try to run the control rig export function, and this time it's not prompting any information about the face setup, so it has detected the face setup and it's compatible, so it's going to export that as well. It is, however, asking us what Unreal version we're going to work with, because control rig works different in these different Unreal versions. We're going to use Unreal version 5, and we'll save this out. I'll also call this Conan, but this is a Python file, not an FBX file, so just naming it Conan. And we'll jump over to Unreal and hit launch Unreal 5, and we'll make a new game. This time I'm just going to make a blank scene. I'll call this Conan control rig, and I'll make a folder here for the files I'm going to import. So Conan, I'll just drag and drop the FBX file in. Now this time we're not changing the option for skeleton here, we're just going to leave it at none, which makes its own new skeleton. However, there's something we want to change from the default. We're going to go into the advanced section and we're going to turn on import morph targets. This is going to be off by default and has to be manually turned on. And that's it. We're going to hit import all. Now make sure to select the skeletal mesh node, right click and choose create control rig. Now that's made a new node here, which is the control rig, and we can open it up and we'll see that currently it has no controllers and the graph is empty. The Python script is going to populate this with the controls and the graph for the rig. Now before we do that, it's an important step here is to turn off this blue highlighted button here that says auto compile. Make sure that it's off. If you leave it on, it will run a lot slower in the Python script. So leave that off, close it up. Make sure we select the control rig node, and in the tools drop down menu there's a function here called execute Python script, and we'll choose the Python script that was exported out of Advanced Skeleton and hit open. Okay, so that takes a couple of seconds and it tells us in the output log that yes, Advanced Skeleton to control rig was executed. If we now double click on the node, we can see that the control rig has been generated. I have a bunch of nodes in here and the rig can be tested in here. Now a difference from Maya rigs to Unreal control rigs is that like selecting channels and drag to control. In Maya, over in Unreal, these are all sliders. So for these fingers here, instead of a channel box with attributes, we have these controllers, which essentially works the same as the Maya attributes. And we'll have a bunch of these for the face as well, selected various expressions here. And if we wanted the control rig in our scene, we'll just drag and drop the control rig in, and that will automatically create a new sequence and it's ready to animate. Now another functionality with the control rig here is it includes the backward solve. Now, backward solve is a cool system in Unreal that allows you to take animation on the bones and convert or transfer that animation onto controllers. Very useful for example, if you have motion capture clips and you want to edit the motion, but edit the motion on the controllers instead of the bones. And to show that how this is working, we can jump back into Maya and put some animation on this character. Now to get some quick animation going, what we can do is just open any of these picker or selector tools. In the anim drop down menu there's a function called mocap library that connects to a big database of motion, so we'll just grab one of these. Let's go with Michael Jackson style motions and pick the first clip in here, hit apply, and we can see we now have, just hit play, we got Conan doing some Michael Jackson moves here. We'll then rerun FBX export because it's gonna include the animation in the FBX. Make sure the animation tick box is on, make sure the bake animation also is on. I'm just gonna overwrite the file and that saves out the FBX, including the animation. And then over in Unreal, I'm just gonna make a new folder and re-import this, so I'll call this Conan 2. And in here, we're gonna make sure the import animation checkbox is on and hit import all. And if we locate the skeleton mesh node, double click on it, we can quickly jump over to animation and see that the animation is here. Now this animation is not on a rig at this point. This is just the bones, the deformation bones having this animation. And again, we want to make sure to make the controlled rig. So right click, create control rig. We'll open the control rig, turn off auto compile, and we'll run the same script again. Now a quick shortcut here, since we're running the same script, is that it's available now in recent script. So we'll just go recent script, run the same script. And we now have the completed control rig. So now we're going to test out the baking of the animation to control rig, and the way we'll do it, we'll make a new level sequence. Open it up, will gives us the sequencer. We'll also make sure we have the skeleton mesh in the scene. Maybe he should be dancing on the table. And with the animation clip, we'll just actually we want to drag the character in here as a track. We'll drag in the animation clip, and we can test that by hitting the play button in the sequencer. We got Conan dancing on the table, and then we want to right click on Conan here and say bake to control rig. Now that should have our control rig available in here, but you might, just like here, not have that available, and that happens if the control rig has not been actually saved yet. So with the control rig node, right click, hit save, and if we now try again to say bake to control rig, we now have the control rig available in the list, and we'll choose it and go with the default settings, and here we are. It has converted the Michael Jackson dance motion capture from the bones onto the control rig itself. So that's how that works. Let's jump back into Maya, and last thing I want to mention here is those are all Unreal related exports. There is, however, one more option that can work together with Unreal, and that's the import. And now if we want to bring Unreal characters into Maya and have them working with advanced skeleton rigs, we can use the tool called the name matcher. Now for more in-depth information about the name matcher, I suggest checking out the YouTube video about this. But for now, we'll do a quick test and we'll make a new scene. Now in here, if we go into characters, we'll see we got the mannequin Unreal 4, and we also have mannequins, which is the Unreal 5 versions. Under meshes, we can choose, let's grab Manny, the male version. And on the skeletal mesh node, we are able to right click and say Asset Action Export. That lets us write that out as a FBX file. We'll use the default name, which is going to be Manny. And we'll just drag and drop that into Maya. And we get this character in Maya, and with the name matcher, if we open it up, we'll see the first section is something called templates, which is essentially different applications have different naming conventions, and here you can swap between them. In this case, it's found Unreal 5 naming convention on the joints and switch to that template. So all we got to do, go into functions and hit the first one, create and place the fit skeleton. Hit the second button called build advanced skeleton. And then thirdly, we got two options here. We can hit constraint to joints. Now that has constrained the rig, so that's all now already fully working advanced skeleton rig that controls that skeleton. So the originally imported skeleton is still there. It's just being controlled by the rig. Now I'm going to undo that step, that constrained joints. So we're back to having the advanced skeleton rig not currently controlling anything, and we'll use the second option. That's just a little bit different. That's going to transfer the skinning from the joints chain that came imported onto the advanced skeleton joint chain. So we'll try that option. I hit transfer skinning. You'll see that has completely deleted the old skeleton joints that came imported. It's now, all the deformation is now happening on the advanced skeleton joint chain. Now that has several advantages, such as this rig will now work with more of the built-in advanced skeleton functions, as the deformation joints are the advanced skeleton deformation joints. So this will work with any character you can bring out of Unreal, like in this case the mannequin joints. It can also be metahumans or any of the cool characters that you can download from the Unreal store. Alright, so that's some of the Unreal 5 related advanced skeleton functions. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.